the 24 Republican primary is heating up, and Donald Trump today launched a new attack video on his presumptive top opponent, Ron DeSantis. Let's check it out.
For those of you that didn't notice, Florida was doing great long before Ron DeSantis got there. People are fleeing from New York to Florida and other places because of high taxes and out-of-control crime. It's really bad. Not because of the governor, thank you, Mr. President, for doing that, but it's not because of the governor. Florida was doing fantastically. You had a governor named Rick Scott who did a very good job. Even Charlie Crist, a Democrat, did a good job, and he had very good numbers. Sunshine and ocean are very alluring. It's not too hard to work with those factors. So just remember, Florida was doing really well long before Ron DeSantis got there.
So look, before we get into this, look, everyone's going to get mad. People are going to fight each other in the comments. I get it. Okay, keep it respectful. Keep it respectful, will we? But before we get into it, let me just kind of explain, you know, I support Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. I'm not an anti-Trumper by any stretch of the imagination. And I'll even go so far as to say that I do understand why, from a political perspective, Trump has to attack Ron DeSantis. Right? None of us like to see our movement divided. None of us like to see two of the best politicians in our movement constantly fighting each other. But like, let's be realistic. This primary is obviously about to happen. I mean, you know, you can say, oh, Ron DeSantis is not going to run for president. Really? Do you really believe? I mean, he was in Iowa this week. He's about to go to New Hampshire. Of course, he's setting up to run for president, right? This primary is happening, and that's why these attacks are happening. So I understand why the mudflinging is going to happen and has to happen. And with that said, I do like Ron DeSantis too. Okay, I think he's a great governor. I think he's not just a great governor. I think the statewide movement he's starting with this kind of use of effective conservative power is probably one of the most important contributions any politician will make to the political right over the next few decades. And I'm serious about that. I think, you know, decades from now, assuming we don't retake every aspect of the federal system, we may look back at DeSantis and say, well, thank gosh he started kind of setting the precedent of states rebelling and kind of in a figurative sense, of course, and kind of going against the grain of the federal government, because now we kind of have this model of the strong conservative state. And so, you know, again, I don't hate Ron DeSantis either. OK. And so what I'm about to say is out of love, OK, for both candidates, for both politicians, I should say, not both candidates, but both politicians. But I will say that in all fairness, OK, and get mad if you want from whatever side, but I don't think Donald Trump saying this is the most effective political attack against Ron DeSantis. Why? Because, you know, Ron DeSantis is a good governor. He's a great governor, in fact. Not perfect, sure. There are places you could criticize him. But he is by far the best in the country and the most effective in the country. And to compare him remotely in the same stratosphere to Charlie Crist, to Rick Scott, I don't think that's accurate. You know, I think it's reaching pretty hard to say he's not effective and that his highly effective culture war policies have not, you know, fundamentally changed the state. Of course, he's effective, and of course that has happened. And of course, those policies are a big reason why the state's doing well economically and attracting so many people. Okay, and I came to this state because of his policies, not because of the sunshine. And a lot of people do, right? There's a bunch of just Republicans just moving here from all over the country because it's seen as a paradise. Okay, so with that said, like Ron DeSantis, obviously, like, let's just be honest, Ron DeSantis is a good governor. He's popular among Republicans because of how good he is. And so I don't think the best political, and this is free advice to the Trump campaign again, but I don't think the best political attack against Ron DeSantis is to go out there and just say, he was a bad governor, or he didn't really do anything to help the state of Florida. Of course he did. Right? Of course he did. Now, there are plenty of attacks that Trump could make against DeSantis that I think are quite valid. You could say, well, maybe he's a good governor, but it's still Trump's moment and it's not DeSantis's time yet. Maybe you could say DeSantis is like unproven on the federal level. Maybe he won't be as effective as a president as he is a governor. I think that's a reasonable take. You could even point to the number of times that he's caved to the state legislature, right? So very often what happens here in the state of Florida is DeSantis will introduce a bill that's very right-wing and very good, and then the rhino neocons in the state legislature will water it down, and DeSantis ends up caving and signing the watered-down bill, and then we get a half-baked version of what we wanted, right? And this is a totally, and again, Ron DeSantis still a great governor, but this is a valid criticism that if you're Donald Trump, you could bring up. You could say, well, if he can't take on the Florida neocons, how is he going to take on Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and all that stuff, right? You could even say, oh, well, he's doing important work in Florida, but he needs to stay where he is and finish the job, and Trump is the man to tackle the national issues. These are totally valid arguments that I think most Republicans, whether they support Trump or DeSantis, would say are generally more good faith. But in my humble opinion, I think what's not effective for Trump is to basically say that Ron DeSantis hasn't been a good governor and like his culture war policies have not been effective in all of this. Of course they have. And I think you're really pushing up a very steep hill to convince people of to say, well, Florida was just the same under Rick Scott and Charlie Crist. Like, that's just not true. Okay, and we all know that's not true. Most Trump supporters don't think that's true. And nor do I think that this type of attack is necessary, right? Considering you look at the polls, Trump is the front runner, right? Maybe if you were late in the primaries, Trump is losing desperation time. You throw the Hail Mary and start saying this. But like I said, I think for now, the better attack is just to say, well, it's not your time yet. Get out of the way, little boy. You're a good governor, but we can work together. But I'm the one in charge here. It's my show, not your show, right? I think that's much better than just denying and downplaying all the very real and tangible changes that, admittedly, culture war speaking, Ron DeSantis has made to the state of Florida. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Let me know in the chat. I'm sure this will not be controversial at all whatsoever. I'm sure everyone will be perfectly happy with each other and in perfect agreement on this issue. Yeah, very controversial. But yeah, let me know what you think in the chat and the comment section if you're watching on the replay. Hey guys, Vince Dow here. Hope you enjoyed that clip from our show. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to check out our other clips and check out the Vince Dow Show live every weekday of the night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. This has been the first week of the show. It's been going great. The people have been loving it. So again, 8 p.m. Eastern time live Mondays through Fridays here on YouTube. You do not want to miss it. Thanks and God bless.